Welcome everyone. This is one of the virtual meetings that we are holding in the Madrid chapter. But today we have people from many other chapters. We have people from Rotterdam, from Zurich, London, Barcelona, Milano, Valencia, Monaco, Berlin, and we even have a couple of guests to which I will give a warm welcome. Marta, welcome. And we have 3 guest speakers today that will discuss about crisis management in an international company. The guest speakers are Andrea Amodeo, welcome, and thank you for joining us. Uwe Weinreich from GBO Berlin, and Juan from GBO Madrid. So we will start by a short round of introduction by the guest speakers, like 15-20 minutes each, and after that we will make a round of questions and answers. So enough for me now. Just thank you for joining, and Andrea, I think you can get started.
Well, perfect. Well, first of all, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity today of sharing some thoughts with you about this very peculiar moment we are in right now. I briefly introduce myself. My name is Andrea Amodeo. I'm Italian. I have 15 years experience in marketing in companies like Barilla, Angelini, that is an Italian pharmaceutical company, and by now in Bolton Group, that is a multinational company, an Italian multinational company, with presence in many sectors like food. The group is the second largest group in the world for canned tuna, and Homecare, personal care, and adhesives, and cosmetics. By now, I'm based in Madrid as marketing director for food and home care. So this is unfortunately or not the second big crisis I lived during my career, because I lived the first one in 2009 with the H1N1 flu that was absolutely not comparable to this. But we saw at that time, and we are seeing right now, the same patterns in consumer behavior and mind. So I'd like to share with you a couple of slides just to see how consumers' behavior changes during the crisis, and how media spending and many other things in consumption in the consumer's mind changes during these days, and what we can do to face this and to be relevant now and to grow on later. I'll start with I try to. Let me see if you see my screen. Okay, you should see my screen right now. Perfect. So this is a slide we received from Nielsen. Everybody of you know Nielsen as the world's largest provider of market data. So they have a task force that is working on the coronavirus and on the crisis. So in this slide, what we see is that consumer behavior has 6 steps, 6 moments that depends on events that mark its behavior during the crisis. We have the first moment, that is the moment in which there are minimal cases, and so the customer starts to switch his mind to products that support maintenance of health and wellness. Then the government start launching safety campaigns, and so the customer switches to reactive health management, as to say, to buy masks, to buy disinfectant. Then there's another moment, that is the preparation, and then the quarantine, and then the moment in which we are all right now, that is the restricted living moment, in which we have socially much cases of COVID-19. We have lockdown, restaurants and other stores are closed, and so the point in which we are right now is that in which we have shopping trips that are very restricted, online fulfillment is limited, price concern rise as we have a limited stock, and we are starting to see the economical change that this crisis will generate. The sixth step is a step that we are only seeing right now in China, that is this getting back to a new normal. What is a new normal? Is a situation in which we are going to recover our freedom, but in which we change our habits. So right now we can see that we are in the step number 5. All over the world is in step number 5, and only China seems to be in step number 6. What does it mean from a consumer's point of view to be in step number 5? This means, for example, that if we take apart disinfectant products that are growing 300, 400% with a lot of shortages, it means that, for example, in Italy, the multi-purpose cleaners are growing 50% compared to last year. 50% is growing as well canned food. For example, in US, dried beans are growing 250% compared to previous year. In France, pasta and flour are growing 170% on the average of the last 2 weeks respect to previous years. So it means that there are a lot of goods that are growing in line with the pain and the restriction of the pandemic. Beyond all this, clearly there are concerns about safety and insecurity, and those concerns just are a sort of trigger in shaping consumer accelerators. That's what we are going to see in the next slide. So what we see here, we see a graph in which we have on the horizontal axis the 6 steps we just shared, and then we see 3 trends that just 3 consumer accelerators that take place in each and every step. What is just the sentence that explains all of this? Be relevant, and be, I would say, and be transparent. So relevance and transparency are the triggers of consumers in this moment. So for each and every activity, being relevant and being transparent are by now the keywords to be successful later on in the future. Let's start describing very briefly quality and efficacy. What happens? In the first moments of the crisis, consumers are seeking reassurance for products that are free of risk and with a certified quality. So this means for retailers, manufacturers, and professionals to communicate why a consumer, a client, has to trust this product. This in the long term clearly will reshape consumer mind in order to evaluate purchases from a different point of view. Then, as the pandemic continues and as the danger arises, the consumer demand more transparency and demand more trust from brands and from providers. So it's basic to be transparent on what the origin of the product is and just give to the customer a reassurance on the origin of the product. Last but not least, and that's what we are doing right now, is just to take advantage of technology, because technology in this moment is the biggest trigger of consumers' behavior right now. And so with connectivity and work from home, that's changing our everyday habits, it's fundamental for companies, professionals to leverage on this technology and just to give the opportunity to the customer to take the chance with this technology to become loyal and to communicate with it in a more peculiar way. So above all this, the very big question is how long will it last and what will happen next? We have a forecast in our company. We are sharing with our colleagues. We are sharing outside our company. And what we can forecast is that we see and hope that all of this by summer will be most of all past. So we see in summer that retail will get back to its historical position, even with a little rebound in the very first month past the isolation, and that all other economical sectors that now are deeply impacted for the pandemic will restart progressively taking their positions. So we'll see clearly a big impact on tourism for summer, and we forecast to be back to normality up to the beginning of 2021. Surely the situation will have deep economical consequences that are very difficult to understand entirely by now, even if timing is crucial to determine how deep they will be. So what we can see from a consumer point of view, from a media consuming point of view, is this. This is we are at home, so we see a graph with the engagement per person in 24 countries, so all over the world during this COVID-19 pandemic. What we see is that the consumption of TV is growing significantly from week to week. We are adding more or less from 1 to 2 hours per day of TV usage in for each day. So this is another big impact. The need for security is translated into seeking to, apart from streaming platforms, seeking news into local broadcaster. As we can see here from this graph, that is a US-based graph. What we see is that consumption of local news is growing significantly than the consumption of bigger networks. So the consumer's need for reassurance is translated into a change in media consumption and fruition. From another point of view, we see that radio is racing. It could be strange from a point of view, but radio is racing in consumption because, as we can see here, radio consumption at home is racing, even if consumption in the car is declining. So the point is that overall, radio is a sort of reassuring media in this very peculiar moment. Then what we can see from a spending point of view is that clearly sectors like personal care, hygiene products, and so on are, and so restaurants are totally stopping their media investment. We have a decline from 60 to 80% of media investing in these sectors. Clearly, the only raise in investments, in media investment, are in laundry products, in healthy products, and let me check these, in finance products. So all other sectors, especially I would say internet and telecommunication, travel services, and all others and automotive are stopping their media investment. Let's go to the last, so that's it. Here we see a resume of all this in this graph, where we see that in UK and Italy, that are two of the countries most impacted by this pandemic, we see a decline from 3 to 5% of TV advertising. Then I end my speech just telling to you this. What will happen next? What we see that consumer habits will change. And we see that, for example, in Asia, we notice that consumers are changing their habits in a way more related to staying at home. So we see that eating at home is really growing. We see that health-related matters are constantly growing in Asia. And so what we can forecast that in the long term, only the relevant brand, only the relevant services, only the services, and most of all the services related to health and home will grow and will take advantage of this totally unexpected event. So that's it. If you have any question, I'll be very happy to answer to you later on.
Thank you, Andrea. So if you could hand over the presentation to Uwe, even if you don't need it, Uwe, but yeah. And if you all like, we will have questions and answers at the end, so you can ask Andrea and Uwe and Juan about all this.
Okay.
So Uwe, you're up.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So a few words about me. Well, I have a strange hobby. From time to time, I'm founding companies over more than 30 years now. And currently I'm working as a business consultant, more or less, on innovation, on strategy, and all these things. So because I'm already a little bit gray-haired, there's some experience behind it, and I would like to share it. It's maybe a little bit more personal and maybe a little bit more strategically than Andrea has presented. Okay, so you will find my slides right in this box. And what I'm going to talk about is radical mind shift for a successful crisis strategy. But first of all, many thanks for inviting me to this conference. I feel really honored to be here at this time. And I would like to send my best wishes and empathy to Spain. I'm well aware that you all live in a region that is one of the worst affected by the coronavirus. In comparison, we in Berlin are really fine. It's really going well over here, but I hope you will be better off soon. So let's start to talk about crisis management. With the corona crisis, we are currently experiencing the most serious human and economic crisis I have ever seen in my life. And I had been going through various crises as an entrepreneur, as you can imagine. The bursting of the dot-com bubble in 2000 went rather smoothly for me, really, as I had just sold my first digital startup. So that was an easy time for me. On the other hand, on the day the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center were attacked, I was currently in a strategy workshop with a client company whose focus changed completely the minute we heard the news. And that was a huge example for me to see how fast strategies can be changed. Then the 2000 financial crisis hit me severely, really hard. At that time, we were in the midst of an expansion phase with my third digital startup, and our investors completely turned away after the collapse of the Lehman Brothers. Until November, we continued to operate in crisis mode, but after that, the decision was made to sell the business model to a competitor. Maybe I could have reacted better if I had learned some lessons before. But in these crisis situations, I had to learn some lessons the hard way, and it would have been nice to have known at least some of them in advance, and I would have been prepared much better. So for this reason, I would like to share some of my experiences with you. Maybe it's going to help you. I hope so. If not, forget about all the rest. So, okay, let's start with what must be done first and foremost. And I think all of you know that. Securing the financial existence of your company. As soon as your company gets into trouble, this is the first duty of management. Check how long the company can survive financially and take active countermeasures. What everyone must pay attention to is that liquidity of the company is maintained. Everything else is secondary at the first. So care for your liquidity. The measures are usually known. Reduce expenditures, negotiate better payment terms, pump fresh money into the company. Maybe you can get some loans or some money from your shareholders. There is no way around it. Securing the liquidity is the first order of the day. You can't get around it. I went through this, and I know very well that this is easily said, but very difficult to realize. And there's some traps even behind it. I'm a trained psychologist originally, and I know very well how people react in crisis situations. And that is often not what is appropriate. With astonishment and fright, I have found that exactly these mechanisms work on me, although I should have known better. So let's have a closer look. What happens in these situations? We have to talk about crisis and the dynamics of crisis. Crisis is nothing more than the experience of progressive failure. Although one tries hard to turn the situation around to a better, you act, and still it seems to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and feeling of desperation and inability to act becomes stronger and stronger. I have noticed myself how I myself have become paralyzed really by this, and I have known that exactly this is absolutely the wrong way. Psychologically, these things are anything but beneficial. The danger of falling into such psychological traps is enormous. So let's have a closer look at the traps. What kind of traps are they? The further we descend these stairs, the more urgent becomes the need to solve the situation, right? And nature has provided us with emergency mechanisms to protect us. The problem is, in a modern, highly technological world, these mechanisms are rather dysfunctional. Pitfall number one, we focus more and more. As useful as it is to focus on a problem in order to solve a problem, this can be damaging if you lose the sight for the world around us. If your sight narrows more and more and you don't see a solution, even though it's right in front of you. Pitfall number 2, in order to not become emotionally incapacitated, we actively avoid further unpleasant information. We need a certain stability, sure, to survive in crisis situation. Additional negative messages would threat us in a way, so our brain protects us by preventing action that could lead to such messages. I know it. I knew that people react this way. And I never imagined that this would happen to me. And yet it was the moment I was in the crisis, I clearly noticed, well, that is certain motivation aroused to avoid information from the outside. And so it took a lot of self-control to avoid this temptation. What helps against these two psychological traps, if knowledge alone is not enough? It's a social counterpart. For me, at that time, it was my accountant on one side and my personal coach on the other. I had absolute trust in both of them, and they were both not emotionally involved in the development of my business. It helps a lot to have these people and to talk to them and to gain an unobstructed view of reality. And once you have it, once you have gained this distance to what is happening right now, it is indeed possible to radically change your own perception of the crisis. I know well from my experience how strange it feels when someone asks you to look at the positive side of the crisis. This is totally crazy, isn't it? But if you accept it, new perspectives emerge that clearly expand your options for action. In fact, it can even lead to new product solutions and a new strategy that is much more robust than in the past. The key point is to focus on what customers really need. Actually, this is a key to any strategy, but it becomes particularly important in crisis situations, right? If you get so far that you create a new strategy, maybe new products, new solutions, well, we have to take a distinction. A distinction must be made between two perspectives, the short-term and the long-term perspective. This is very important, so not to confuse them. So the short-term perspective should be, what can we contribute to the public to overcome the crisis? So what can you give to the public? There are currently great examples where automotive companies are starting to produce respirators, textile manufacturers started sewing masks, and distilleries are producing disinfectants. So there's a way to contribute to the public. They are all helping to overcome the crisis, and yes, they are making money from it. It is a valuable contribution to securing the financial existence of these companies. And it is a valuable contribution to the public as well. So what is it that you can contribute? If you have something, get involved and earn money with it. But keep in mind that these short-term strategies are not enough. A long-term strategy is necessary. Every major crisis will change something in the long term. Perspection, customer needs, rules of the games in business, the importance of partners and competitors, and much more is fundamentally reassembled in crises. Andrea called it the new normal. We have to focus on that. And a sustainable strategy should therefore be based on close observation of the analysis and changes. So keep your eyes open, or even better, form a team of smart people from different disciplines who together observe the changes and analyze the effects and opportunities. Why not have an in-house think tank? That can be a good idea, really. So maybe your in-house think tank, maybe you can add some other people and so be better prepared for what is coming. for all the changes that Andrea mentioned. Perhaps you will develop completely new offers that will drive your company forward after the crisis, better than ever before maybe. Yes, crises are a good opportunity to innovate and even invest. This crisis hits many companies after years of strong growth. So this also means that some companies may well have money that can be invested. Now, this would be a good time to start. While others are hiding, cut back of expenses and lay people off, it is possible to prepare innovative products and hire outstanding employees at a relatively favorable condition. Companies can use crisis as a launchpad to start off and secure outstanding market positions. The right time is of paramount importance. But again, there's a psychological trap falling in place. Let's talk about that. We have to admit that, we all evaluate losses more dramatically than we positively evaluate profits. This loss aversion makes it difficult to decide on a proactive approach, especially in times of crisis when a high degree of uncontrollability plays a role. Am I not losing more than I can win? Well, sure, this concern is justified, I have to admit, but should be tested by a rational analysis. I myself benefited greatly, I have to admit, from the fact that with my second digital company during the bursting of the dot-com bubble, we were able to prepare our new business model smoothly, and I was able to find excellent people on the job market without any problems. That was really great at these times. By the way, the fact that new people were hired in a critical situation had a motivational aspect as well on my employees. Hiring is a very strong signal to your people that management believes it can overcome the crisis. So there's another part. You wouldn't believe how much attention employees pay to how leaders communicate. I myself only noticed it during the crisis of 2008 when a long-time employee stood in front of me and said straight to my face, "Uwe, we all know what the situation is like at the moment. Please do us a favor and tell us clearly where the journey will take us. We can understand it all, but this uncertainty is really unbearable." So I realized that I had apparently made a significant mistake by focusing too much on corporate finances and too little on employees. Even when we ourselves are floating in uncertainty, is to support employees and to communicate honestly and sincerely with them. So this is what we as managers, we as business owners have to do. And besides that, a very personal recommendation, because communication not only lives inside a company, but as well outside. So when you communicate, don't just talk to your employees, but also to communicate extensively with outsiders. These can be partners, suppliers, customers, your entire network, you name it. Pick up the phone and call people to talk to them and talk to them. What you should not try is to make it a sales call, because this is really inappropriate. Just try to exchange ideas, learn how others are doing, and get to know others' perspectives. For me personally, in 2008, it was not only a chance to feel close to others, to feel related to others, but I gained really deep insights into the dynamics of the entire industry that I would never have had otherwise, and which ultimately, I have to admit, led to a fairly happy ending for my company. Actually, if I hadn't talked to others, I would have continued to run the business for month and month and month and burned a lot of money, only because these calls revealed how dramatic the developments were going to be for me and my business model, it was much easier to make the right decision. So I was happy to have picked up the phone and talked to a lot of people, and that is what you can do too. And yes, even leaving a business model can be a sensible strategic decision in a crisis. I hope it's not your strategic decision, and it doesn't have to be. And actually, it is much more interesting if you succeed in emerging from the crisis with momentum, through innovation and a positive strategy. You only need to look at the many Corona YouTube videos, and you will see how creative people become when conditions are severely constrained. I wish that this creative energy also has an effect in your company, and that you can conquer your market with momentum at the right time. So it's point to resume. There are 3 psychological traps that you should avoid. I have mentioned them. Beware of tunnel vision and try to radically reopen your perspective with the help of trustworthy people. Don't fall for the impulse to ignore negative news, because you will lose essential information that you need, that you desperately need. And we all weight potential losses higher than the chance of making profits. We all know that, and keep that in mind. Don't let this lead you astray, but be courageous when there are reasonable arguments for taking new paths. So at the end, let's resume the messages I would like to leave with you. Despite, and I know it, despite all the difficulties and the need to secure the financial survival of the company first, and this can be really a hard job. Keep in mind, crises are a good time to get involved, so look what you can contribute to the public and get involved. Crises are a good time to develop new services, new product offerings, and reposition yourself strategically. Try to find your path, your way through the crisis. And crises are, at least for some of us, a good time to invest and to attract and retain the best people on the market. There will be much more than before. So in the end, I hope that you will not lose heart and that you will come through these weeks well, and in the best case, strengthened. That would be really fine. And so I thank you very much for your attention and hand over to the next presenter. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's time for Juan. So if you could please hand it over to Juan Torres. It is JD Torres, that's right.
Yes, give me a second. Shall I share the screen, isn't it?
Yes, Uwe has to make you a host.
No.
Please, Uwe.
Oh,
yes, you're
okay.
a host now. Uwe, so if you could please hand it over to GD Torres.
GD Torres, but I can't find him. Now, GD Torres. Yeah, there he is. Yep, found him.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're up, Juan.
Okay. So I share the screen. Okay, can you see it? Can you see the screen? Hello?
Yes, everyone is muted, so don't wait for any.
Okay,
yes,
okay, it's fine.
Go ahead,
it's
Juan.
fine.
We can see it. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Juan Torres. I work for Insight, which is one of the companies that belongs to Indra. Indra is one of the main consulting and IT companies in Spain. It's an international, managerial, and business sites rather than a pure IT or development site. during the presentation, and basically my approach is going to be similar to what Uwe spoke Cile over the crisis. Why is that? Basically because the crisis that I have lived in my past have been on that side, of deal with the situation and the crisis in itself, from the managerial, from the leadership point of view, rather than any other perspective. In my past, I have lived three main, I would say four, because I'm in the middle of one, four main crises directly when I'm running businesses. The first one was September 11, working for Amadeus, an IT company dedicated for travel and tourism industry, heavily affected. Big crisis. It was one of the first crisis that we have to manage from the business perspective, running a company. Then was the financial crisis. Later on in 2013, something that was very, very local, but touched me and imposed me to closely manage a crisis in a country, was the Westgate terrorist attack in Nairobi, when I was running the business in Eastern Africa, that is beyond any previous one because of.
Juan, sorry to interrupt you there.
Very different.
You're breaking up a lot. Could you please send me the presentation so I can share the screen, and you stop the video so maybe your sound comes best?
Yes.
If you can send it to me by WhatsApp or email or whatever.
Miguel, to your email.
Yes, please, to my email or to my WhatsApp or whatever.
Email.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Sorry for that, everyone. Let's try to make this work.
It's on its way.
Okay.
Got it?
Have you sent it already, Juan?
Miguel Angel.
Yeah, I didn't get it yet.
Yes, it's sent.
Okay. Let me try to solve this with Juan. If you want to start a round of questions in the meanwhile, please go ahead, and I'll solve this with Juan. Okay, I'm going to call you.
I'm sorry, but it works fine now. I can hear him clearly now that everybody's turned off their videos. So I think he can just simply try to go on.
Yeah, but the thing is that he can't share his screen. So I'm going to try to share it. But I need the presentation from him. So.
Yes, but still, when he was still sharing the screen and everybody else put the video off, I heard him a lot better.
Yes.
So.
Well, we can try again. I sent you the address on WhatsApp. I'm not getting it, Juan. So try to continue and we do it like this.
No?
No.
Okay, I will try to continue because I don't know what happened with, because I send it, okay? So I will try to continue slowly. Let's see if it works. So basically, okay, the situation about crisis is about uncertainty. We don't know what we're gonna be the outcome, if it is done, how long, how session is certainty on what is gonna be the route that is gonna take. Then by managing the crisis, and I agree with Uwe, is from my side and based on the experience, is taking about the people, taking about your people. The first and foremost important responsibility of a leader, of a person managing a company, even small, even big, a state, any responsibility that you have as a leader is to do everything is possible to make sure your people is right, your people is safe. You have built that harmony and that action, and to focus that action of taking care of your people, not only on the people who you have under your responsibility, which is within the company or within the family, is beyond that. Is with customers, with your suppliers, with the different stakeholders that you have around. Remember that is under those difficult circumstances where trust, the confidence, and the loyalty is built the most, and is for the long term. And always the crisis goes in cycles, and at some point it's going to be over. So you have to make sure that you retain your people, you retain your good customers, your good providers, and your good partners. That is the first duty, is caring on those who are exposed to the risk. Then important to assess the situation and really prepare for the worst. Even though you don't look at some point too dramatic, and maybe at the beginning we didn't look at all these situations as dramatic as it is, but definitely the responsibility and the attitude is to be a little bit paranoid. Paranoid in the sense that you have to prepare for the worst. You have to take care, have sentiments, they have feelings. They feel fear or anxiety, and you have to have the emotional intelligence to take care of it, to recognize that people are suffering, that they have uncertainty as well. And second is taking care of the business. Prepare for substantial revenue disruption, for run out of cash. Liquidity is a high priority topic because companies break and they run out of business is because of liquidity, and you have to take care of this a very close attention, and start forecasting, start doing a little bit of scenario analysis for that. Definitely what is not an option, what is not acceptable is the do nothing strategy, the wait and see, the belief that, okay, it's gonna be a cycle, it's gonna pass, and eventually it's not going to be so severe. Better to overdo it rather than do nothing. For that, I'm important to be surrounded by good people, to appoint within your team people who will be 100% dedicated to manage the crisis, to monitor the crisis every day, absolutely every day. And that is one of the most, if not the most important team that we have on your right hand. And take action. Start doing a scenario analysis, start taking decisions, start working, communicating well with your team on that direction, on the action-oriented way. Second is put priorities. From my point of view, the first and the most important priority that you have, those circumstances experiencing the crisis is with the people and for them to be safe. And second, take care and be very, very attentive to the liquidity of the company. Then definitely protect your employees and customers, communicate well, set guidelines, set direction, over-communicate better than under-communicate. And that communication has to be 360 degrees in full transparency with customers, with your people, employees, providers, your superiors. That communication is essential because with no communication, gossips start, anxiety increases, and is the worst thing that could happen to an organization. Then, after taking care of your people, communication, basic liquidity stuff, start working on macro scenarios, on scenario analysis, start building scenarios on what happens if your revenues decrease, what happens, how your P&L and your statements will be affected under different, moving different variables. Start working on the units that you manage, moving revenues, start taking decisions on cost and definitely CapEx and working capital, because in the end they are affecting the liquidity. And start doing a rolling forecast for some weeks ahead. Doesn't make sense to do it in a month, in the mid-long term, because under the crisis you are in a day-to-day and week by week, but start taking decisions and start figuring out how the future might be, and build extreme downside scenarios. Better to overdo it, better to be more conservative under a crisis mode. What I put here is a quote saying, do not handbrake actions versus do later break the glass initiatives. Better to take drastic actions now rather than drastic ones later on. Again, you have to protect again, revenue declines. Take care of your people, and part of your people, part of your stakeholders is be very customer centric. Don't look only within your organization. You depend and will be your future. So become even more a customer-centric organization, a customer-centric leader under the crisis. And well, definitely after all of this is operations. Try to normalize as much as possible. Take care of your supply chain, the distribution.
Sorry, Juan, I think we lost you. Yes, Juan is disconnected. So I think we can start the round of questions and answers, and when Juan is back, he can also join that. So if you want to pose a question, please raise your virtual hand so I can see it and give you the round of questions. So let me go first while the other questions come. I would like to ask if you think that we will turn from global to local on our customer habits, if this change will be long lasting or if it will just be a matter of months or even years, but in the end we will go global again as we were.
Andrea, I think you are the expert, aren't you?
Let's see. Bye. Yeah. I think that global is not an option. We are now, for example, facing problems in Italy, in Spain, or in Germany too, because of the lack of foreign workers in the agricultural field. So I think that global is not an option. What is an option is relevance. What I was telling you before was exactly this. Now the consumer need security, need to be reassured on the value of the products of the company or the person is speaking with. So I think that we will go back to local from speaking about trust. So it's fundamental to maintain and to keep on with trust and with relevance. So I think that global is here. We can avoid it. What we can change is the way we look at local, is the way we deal with local. So the very big lesson we can learn from this is that brands, products, companies, persons who established a link who are relevant to others are the one who will take advantage of this disruptive moment. So that's how I see this.
Well, I would rather say that, well, this is absolutely right, that local has a huge role at the moment looking at the business. But I think there's a kind of reorganization of international businesses in that kind that we will have more regional based businesses. Maybe they are the same all over the world, but not all the production will be left in China. But some production will come back to Europe, which is not really bad for Europe. But this is a kind of shift in the economy, in the international, in the global economy that we will have to face, I think. And that can be a huge advantage for many European companies that are maybe at the moment not at the foremost point of competition. So let's have a look at that, what is going to happen during the next month or years that will not be visible, I think, during the next weeks, but during the next month and years, this is something that can happen, that we, supported by IoT, supported by robotics and so on, get a lot of production back to Europe. I think this is something that will happen. And this is something that was initiated already by the conflicts between China and the US and Europe and so on. And that this will continue and will be maybe accelerate over time. Thank you.
Thank you, Uwe and Andrea. Now Alvaro is up. He had a question. So Alvaro, go ahead. You're up.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the three speakers. I think it was a great exposition. It was a great chat. I learned a lot from the three speakers. Everyone has a different vision of the crisis. But I have a question to Andrea. Andrea, you have concluded that people, after the new normality, people is going to eat more at home, stay more at home. And I wanted to ask you if you think that this consequence or this change of habit will be linked with the COVID-19 or due to the economical crisis that we are going to face in the next 3-4 months. Do you think that people will change forced to the situation or forced by their own experience?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Alvaro. I think that both will have an impact. First of all, on the very short term, the economical crisis will surely impact on this, because many of us, of our relatives, will have an economical impact, and so we will have less money to spend in leisure and so on. But on the medium and long term, I think that this crisis is so deep that it's going to change our approach to life and reality. Now I live in Madrid, and I know how the Spanish people is very, very out of home, I would say, with an expression. I don't know how much, and I think that this moment will have a big impact on how people, even here in Spain, will approach being outside and staying all together in many places. So I think that it will have a strong impact now, and a longer impact that will change in a way our habits. But that's all about, I would say, fear, reassurance, and need of safety.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. I don't see any hands up, so unless anyone interrupts me, I will go ahead and send another question. So you guys spoke about communication as one of the key things to focus on during this crisis and after the crisis, whenever that is. So do you think that the paradigm will change, that we will focus more on the internet, we will focus more on Zoom meetings, and instead of doing business communications one-to-one, we will just change and decide, well, I learned how to do this during the crisis, so why don't we just meet online and can have very dynamic presentations and communications and meetings without having to go to Madrid, for example, or to Berlin for a meeting? Do you see that as a permanent shift in our paradigms, or is just that something that will just go away once we forget about the crisis and the virus, if we ever do that?
Well,
Yeah,
please answer.
Okay, nobody speaks up, so I can do. As a psychologist, I have to say that habits change over the time. And what we experience now is really a change in habits. So we get more used to it. It will feel more normal after the crisis to communicate via Zoom or Skype or anything else. But in the end, I think it will not totally change our all-day lives, because it is really vital that we meet in person from time to time, at least. And it feels weird if we have to stay at home and to talk to people only via screens and microphones and headphones and so on. And so there will be a change. Communication will be more normal via internet, but I wouldn't say it's a fundamental paradigm shift. But maybe somebody else has another opportunity here. I don't know. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I would like to comment as well. This is Juan. In our case and in my experience, accelerated the speed at which some companies were moving into that cultural change, on putting more flexibility to teams, employees, on acceptance of working remotely, on having virtual meetings. I think that the trend in that direction, what I'm seeing, and I think all this experience has teaches is that it will be all this process will be a speed up.
Yeah, I totally agree with you too. I just like to add that I think that as well as all other unexpected disruption, this will have a rebound, but in the long term, I think we will be more acquainted to this, and so we will use it much more than now. I want to talk to you about the experience I'm living here right now in Madrid. We were in the middle of a technological change, and we were expecting to implement smart working in the next few months. This pandemic forced us to implement smart working instead of 3 months in 10 days. And now we all smart work, and so we just change our paradigm of work, and I think we will be very well prepared to use it in the most efficacious, most proper way in the future. So it's a giant step we took, but we will not lose the the joy of meeting personally with other people.
Okay, thank you. Alvaro has again a question. So, Alvaro, you're up.
No, it's not a question. It's to continue with the topic because
okay, go ahead.
I think it's a very, very interesting topic. And I promise that I'm going to stop talking after that. I'm partially agree with Juan, but very partially, Juan. And I'm very agree with Andrea, not because I think Juan is right if we focus in Madrid, Berlin, London, Rome, or probably Milan. But I always tell the people I work with in the university, the students, that Spain is not Madrid, and Madrid is not La Castellana. Likewise, Germany is not Berlin, or the Victory Arc, for example. So there are a lot of places in which the technology is not so developed than, for example, in Madrid, and they have an industry. We have Asturias, for example. We have part of Basque Country, and a vast part, for example, in the I know there are some people here who loves wine. In Madrid and Italy is an industry, and they do not use technology. So I think that this development probably will arrive to great companies, to big companies, to companies located in key places, but the development will be very, very slow in other parts of the countries. This is for the development point of view. And for the other side, it will depend on the people. I'm aware that it's not the same a German from Munich than from Berlin. There are different ways of living, and it's the same here in Spain and probably in Italy. So I hope, and this is my hope, that people will come back to the meeting to touch each other and start relationships in person, because it's wonderful, for example, this meeting with a lot of people all over the world. But I need to see you, Juan. I need to see you, Andrea, and for example, Carl. Also, all these people I'm meeting in each lunch or in each dinner. I need to see you. I need to touch you. I need to show your behavior in person. So, and this is, I finish here, Miguel. I promise.
Thank you, Alan. It's all good.
Hello,
So,
can you listen?
Yes,
Can I
Marta,
say something?
please.
Hi, thank you for the meeting. I was recovered the topic of the communication and virtual collaboration that day by day we are listening about. The remote work is a reality now, and there are a lot of tools like Zoom, like Loom, etc. But I think this change in communication is not only about IT tools. There are more important things like some words I heard in these virtual meetings, like keep the transparency with our teams, with our client, with our colleagues, to be honest with the communication and the collaboration, to trust in your teams and in your clients and in your colleagues, to make our work visible to all the team, to improve the trust. And a very important thing is to respect the private spaces we all have. Today we are working in our houses with our kids, with our partners, and it's sometimes difficult to conciliate these two situations, sometimes 24 hours, and we have to respect and separate, or to create different spaces of times, or different states, visible states for the other, of on and off state. I don't know, what do you think about this new situation, more than the tools IT that all of us are knowing and improving now?
Absolutely right, Marta. I think tools are simply tools, and we use it for something. And the question is, what do we use them for? And I think what we are currently going through, really, this tremendous technological development going on at the moment, has a huge chance to change our lives, to change how we do business, to a better, to something that is more appropriate for humans. Because over 200 years, we have been used to adapt ourselves, to adapt our employees to the machines. And now it's the first time that machines are developed so far that they can adapt to us. And that can change our business lives completely, because we can have a more human-like business, a more human-like economy, and that would be great. Sure, that demands a lot of things still. For instance, trust, for instance, a change of business cultures in many companies, for instance, more agility, for instance, more responsibility for employees, that they can take over their role better and be more responsible for what they're doing. But we've got a great chance, and maybe this crisis will drive us in this direction. That would be excellent. That would be great, really.
Thank you. Totally agree, Uwe.
Thank you. So anyone wants to go with another question?
No question, but I'm sorry that I have to leave in a few minutes.
Okay. So I think that we can leave it here. It was a real pleasure to have you three guest speakers tonight. I really appreciate you coming and sharing your experiences and knowledge with us. It was really constructive, and I hope that we can repeat this somewhere in the near future. And I thank you all for attending the meeting. I'm sorry for the slight technical issues that we have. And I really hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Many thanks to you, Miguel. It was really a pleasure to be there. And I think this is...
Yeah. And I'm also interested, of course, because I mean, I really like to live in...
Sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to admit that this is one of the great advantages, I think, of the Global Business Owners Club, that we are global in some way. And we can use this international network to fight against the crisis or to find advantages for our businesses. And I loved really to participate in this global, for me, the first global meeting. And so I'm looking forward to what the business club is going to develop to. And this is an interesting part as well of the crisis. Thanks a lot, Miguel, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to point out that this is not even a global meeting, because this is a Madrid meeting that turned into a global one. So I invite you all to attend to one of the global meetings to keep sharing knowledge and fighting together to overcome COVID and whatever comes in our way. So thank you all, and see you soon.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Bye all. Take care.
Goodbye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.